And we are live. Welcome back to the 420 Chief podcast where I like to get out stories of primarily veterans and those that consume 420 themselves and how it's helped them out. But I always like to introduce new folks to the show and hear what they have to say, what they've been through, what they've struggled with. And these are usually people that I look up to. And in this particular case, someone that I even hang out with outside of the military, outside of this show, just someone that likes to live a simple life like me with the camping, being out in nature, and living the simple life, even though that's not easy. And so, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Doc. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I realize that you clearly did not say that you don't look up to me, and that's because we're both short. I think it's the main reason there.
Physically impaired, I think, is the appropriate nomenclature.
I'm going with short.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair enough. Doc, you have an interesting naval career and one that I especially am excited to talk about on the show today because, as far as our listeners are concerned, you are on both sides, right? As far as being enlisted and then going the officer route. So you've kind of seen the ups and downs of both sides of the house. You want to touch base a little bit about your Navy career?
Yeah. So I left for. Are you hearing some feedback, or is that just me?
You sound good.
Okay. All right. I just it's probably the voices in my head. Yeah, I joined the Navy. I left for boot camp in August of 1989, and you know went to boot camp. That was fine. It's funny. I gained 20 pounds in boot camp, man.
Wow.
Yeah, I wrestled in high school. I wrestled at 119. So watching all the movies going before going to boot camp, trying to get jazzed up and everything, and trying to get a little bit of an edge. I was out PTing like a madman, and I didn't realize Navy boot camp was going to be a cakewalk. Essentially, other than being away from home for really the first time in my life. Yeah, I put on 20 pounds. Didn't got out of shape being in boot camp, believe it or not. But
I I
from boot
witnessed
camp,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
That's a real thing, man. I actually had a bodybuilder in my division, and he shrank, and he hated it. Every day he was doing extra PT to build back muscle because it's not a muscle building program by any means.
right, right. Um, so I enlisted to go into the hospital corpsman rate, which is your medical side of the house for those that don't know, and joined the Navy to maybe go be on one of them big gray things, that goes in the water. And the next thing I know, I'm going off to a location in Camp Pendleton, California, for field medical. They call it Field Medical Training Battalion now, FMTB. Um, Essentially, what I did is I became a medic, for lack of a simplified term, I guess, a medic for the Marine Corps. And when I first got to my first infantry battalion, I was my mind was blown, man. Not what I signed up for, right? I was like, I wanted to be haze gray and underway. That's why I joined the Navy. If I wanted to be a Marine, I would have joined the Marines. So I had a little bit of an attitude at first, but a wonderful staff sergeant at one point in time slapped the shit out of me and brought me back into reality. So it was much needed back then. I was guilty, and I'm gonna be honest with you. It's probably needed nowadays too. It's
I think
paperwork doesn't work.
I think we need to be put back into reality sometimes. I don't know if it's necessarily a physical thing like it was back then. I know those times often did in fact help me, but now it's more of like a getting called out on actions, responses, reactions, and things like that, you know. But
Wait a minute, what?
Pendleton's a huge, huge base. I've been out there myself for crew serve weapons shoots, and that
Are
place you can
you?
get lost out there. What?
I'm confused. Are you trying to tell me that you want to hold people accountable?
Oh,
How
I love
dare
those.
you, man?
I've found in my life that those people we call assholes are just those that are telling us the truth even when we don't wanna hear it,
That's right.
and I've come to find out that I like those people that ask me about my progress from the last conversation. "So how's it going with the podcast? How's it going for this?" And then hold me accountable to keep doing shit. Otherwise, I'll get lazy sometimes. I think we all need a little kick in the nuts, so to speak.
Yeah, a little proper motivation. Um,
"Hoo-ya, doc."
So I went to my first duty station was Balboa, Naval Hospital Balboa, and at that time when I came in, every corpsman after you graduated school, basic corpsman school, unless you had a subspecialty school, had to go on to what's called follow-on training, and that was a year and a half of training at one of the big three medical facilities in the Navy. I got lucky and got San Diego, so I did that. Not much to tell there. Pretty boring. Met some cool people, but then things got interesting when I um, went to the green side of the house, if you will. So at the First Battalion, Third Marines, that was my first infantry unit back in the early '90s, and did a deployment or two with them. Came back, and when I came, interesting story here is I went and I tried out for recon. We had Alpha Company Third Recon out in Hawaii with us there, telling Third Marines. Screened, made it. Was about to go over to the company, and ironically, we had a very bitter, brand new chief that came to the regiment, and he pulled me out, even though I'd already screened and done all the paperwork, everything I had to do. And his reasoning was, "Well, I just need you here in the regiment." Um, so I did a really dumb thing as a young sailor, and I said, "I'll show you," and I got out. I got out for a whopping 4 months, um, and then a very
4
good book.
months
Yeah, 4 months.
from bring up.
I was miserable, man. Because I'd worked probably 5, 6 jobs in that 4-month period, and they're all inside, cubicle, kingdom and all that, and I was miserable. Uh,
It's hard. Yeah.
the last job I had, I was working at, of all places, Deerberg's, stocking shelves, and, a very good friend of mine to this date flew out unbeknownst to me here to St. Louis locally and, told me, "Hey, what's the rules on the language here?"
Yeah, you can speak freely on
Okay.
here.
All right. He basically told me, "Hey, dipshit, you're coming back in." And at this time, this was 90, end of '94, beginning of '95. That's when the Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman NEC came online, and he just so happened to be the West Coast screener. And he said, "You're coming back in, and you're going to this pipeline." I'm like, "All right, cool." Long story long, I did. I got stuck in Great Lakes for 2 years because of the first government shutdown under Clinton. Finally got my orders. I get to Little Creek, Virginia, Fort Story, going through amphibious reconnaissance school, break my foot, um, and put me in a bad depression because that's the only reason I came back in. So I got dropped from the pipeline. We'll fast forward a little bit because there's a lot of boring stuff in between there. But what I really wanted to do, since I couldn't do um, I wasn't allowed to go back to the pipeline because I put my foot in my mouth and said some things to some people that were a lot senior to me at the time that I probably shouldn't have said. So I had to find other options. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to become an independent duty corpsman, and I wanted that more than anything. So
And
for
that's a
the
really cool position in the military. I actually was at Little Creek at Assault Craft Unit 2, and all we had on site were IDCs, independent duty corpsmen, and for those who aren't aware, an independent duty corpsman is your that's your doc. Like, they can prescribe medications somewhat, they diagnose you, and they take care of you. They can sew you up and fix you on the spot. They are your in-house doctor, so to speak.
yeah, we it's great training. It's a year long school, but like any military school, it's basically drinking from a fire hose. You get about 2 years of knowledge crammed into a year. I'm sorry, maybe even 3 years of knowledge. So, and it's a tough job, but man, it's a super rewarding job too. A lot of pressure. Uh, so I went to school. Uh, was awesome. Worked my ass off throughout school. I got my orders. Super pumped, and they say you're going right back to First Battalion, Third Marines. So the very same battalion that I was in 10 years prior, I go back to. And so did that, had a great tour. The only thing is that I left in March of 2003, and it was just time for me to go. I had orders. We'll cover the orders part to wear here in a minute. But uh, After I left in March of 2003, I don't know, I think it was the end of March, maybe April, the battalion deployed to Iraq. So I got a lot of survivor's guilt with that because that was my battalion. I should have been with them. Uh, Intellectually knowing that the casualties that we took, the men that we lost, nothing I could do about it. Clearly, whether I was there or not, but I still had that guilt. I should have been there. Those were my guys. Um, so meanwhile, I get orders to a submarine. So now I'm the independent duty corpsman on fast attack submarines. Did two submarines. Realized that that sucked. So ironically, that you just brought up, I went over to the amphibious side of the house. So I ended up being the Naval Beach Group corpsman or Naval Beach Group IDC for the whole group. So I had your unit. I had what's the other one over there with us? You were ACU.
ACU-4, ACU-2 and
Yep,
ACU-4.
yep,
Yep.
both of those, and then Beachmaster.
Beachmasters, yep.
So that was fun and exciting. That's a whole different story. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that story offline.
we'll do it, yeah. That was good
Um,
days.
oh my god. Anyway, I should have been thrown out of the Navy. Instead, they they say, you know what? We're going to make you an officer. So I applied for the medical enlisted commission program. Excuse me, because being an IDC was awesome, and I really love that job. Unfortunately, there's nothing on the outside, man. There's no licensure, there's no certifications, there's no bridges to or paths to that route. So I knew that I need to do something. I got to make myself marketable. So I applied for the program, went to nursing school. I kind of giggle every time I say that. Um, Graduated, got commissioned, and I did. It was hell. I hated it, but
I
I'll
can
save that because you want to transition to that later, right? Or just jump into it now.
we'll talk about it a little later,
Okay.
but I was curious about how was that well, yeah, we can talk about it as far as your from enlisted officer transition for you.
Yeah, it was tough, and the reason I say that is because I made chief in 2003. I got commissioned in 2011, and I had 21 years in at that point. So I'd already done a career, and here I am, basically starting back at the bottom of the barrel. Oh one ensign
Yeah.
puke. You know,
Yeah,
um,
going from feeling that command respect, right, as a chief and being a chief for quite some time, 8 years,
yeah,
right? That's a life-changing experience in itself, just becoming a chief, but then being the chief for so long and taking care of people and just the things that you're exposed to as a chief, and especially in the medical field, that's crazy, and then just starting over is what it feels like in the ranks as far as it's concerned because people can't they don't know your story, they don't know how many years you've had in, they just see your rank a lot of the time.
right. Well, what's funny is that when I graduated school, and it sounds like, yeah, you're a chief for 8 years. What a shitbird, right? No, but three of those years I was going to school, and I was technically eligible, but I didn't even submit a package because why would I want to put on senior chief if I'm getting commission?
I never submitted a package, and I was a chief for 11 years, 11 years as a chief.
I got a package story for you, but anyway, that's a different story. So I get orders to Pensacola. So I go to the Naval Hospital, Pensacola. I get there early. I go to check in. It was a Saturday morning. I'm in khakis. I go to meet my sponsor. He was up working on the ward. I'm walking down the P-way. There's this Lieutenant JG nurse behind the desk. And as I'm walking up to the desk, she looks at me. She says, "Can I help you, Chief?" I said, "Really? Really? Do we not fucking look at collars anymore, JG?" Oh, you're the new ensign. Oh, I'm like, wow, that's how this is gonna be. So I say it was rough. It was rough for a lot of reasons, but it was also pretty damn easy too. Um, I walked in, I'm working shift work, 12-hour shifts, a lot of nights, taking care of patients. And that was cool because that's what I wanted to do. Right.
Yeah.
Um, I had one of my fellow nurses who was also prior enlisted, but he made it to E5 before he got commissioned. And he was asking me, he goes, "Did you find it tough? Going from chief to ensign, especially here?" I'm like, "No, man, you kidding me? This is cake. I come in, I do my job, and I go home. I'm not worried about writing evals anymore. DRBs, you name it, all the collaterals. No, I'm having a great time, and it was like that pretty much consistently until I pull on lieutenant, and that's when all the hate and the jealousy started coming out, and I couldn't understand it, man. We've talked about this, haven't we, offline? Yeah. So
We have, yeah,
I just couldn't understand it. In the medical field is so much different than operational side of the house. There's I like to call them cunts, basically. Civilians under naval training
right.
because they play sailor when it's convenient and and the rest of the time they have no clue. But I got into it with a lot of senior officers for to this day I'm still kind of mind blown about why or what, and I even told a senior captain. I said, "Listen, I don't know what the animosity is between us because we're not competing. You're a captain, I'm a lieutenant. There's you win. I don't get it. So why you're shitting on me left, right, and center is beyond me, but it really needs to stop there, ma'am." So I gave a big clue away there. It's a female dominated world, and here is little old me trying to come in and I guess take a part of their kingdom. I can't figure it out. Got through it. Unfortunately, my father got sick, and I took humanitarian orders back home here to St. Louis, which ended up being the best, probably one of the best duty stations I've ever been to, believe it or not, at the Reserve Center.
Nosk St. Louis.
Yeah.
That's where we met.
Yeah. So, um, conversely to how the medical side of the house is, when I got to the NOSC and I checked in with the skipper and the XO, and they found out how much experience I had and how much time I had in, open arms. They're like, "Welcome home." So I knew right from jump things were gonna be okay. And it really ended up being a great tour for me. No clue. I'd never worked with reservists before. Had no idea what I was doing. As a matter of fact, there was not even a billet for me in medical. So instead of going to medical, they put me as department head of reserve pay and personnel, which was never done that before. But
Well, we are utilities, utility knives, so to speak, but sounds like it was an amazing place for you to retire from,
yeah,
correct?
well, I didn't retire from there, unfortunately.
Oh, I thought you retired out of here.
I retired out of St. Louis, but is at NTAG.
Okay.
So the command at the NOSC was great, very supportive, man. It was really what I needed at the time. And they're all behind me saying, "Yeah, we want to keep you here." So we called the detailer and they're like, "No way, no way." And I'm like, "Come on, I've got my retirement papers in already. You're wasting valuable resources and money by cutting me orders." So they wouldn't budge, and I got orders to NTAG, which was crazy what happened. It was right during COVID. So when I checked in, it was March of was it 20? Yeah, I think yeah, it was 20. And nobody was there, right? The skipper was there, the XO, and one guy in admin, and they're like, "Hey, we got nothing for you," because they canceled my orders to go down to recruiting school because of COVID. I check in and I'll just say Brad. Brad was the skipper's name. I won't mention his last name in case anybody knows. He's like, fortunately, I had known him prior to going to that command. He's like, "Dude, just call the XO every day. Go home. I got nothing for you." Roger that. So that's what I did. And then I stopped. I turned around and said, "Hey, skipper, I'm supposed to. I got to take a piss test within 72 hours of checking in." He says, "Well, I can waive that because there's nobody here." Like, okay. Well, mind you, I had 8 less than 8 months left in the Navy at that point. They all knew it when I went over there. They accepted me and everything. But I remember it pretty clearly. It was I got there in March. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. I retired in March, January. So January, I'm like, you know what? I haven't been called for a piss test. No, I'm not going to risk it. I thought about it pretty hard, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to risk it. So basically, nothing happened. Right? It was COVID. Nobody was doing anything. Fast forward, and it was time to retire. Although I will say one fun little story. Here's the difference between operational and medical, right? So when I got orders, I was an officer recruiter. I was not a medical officer recruiter. I was an officer recruiter. So I worked for the XO, basically. Well, there was a commander, medical type, medical service corps type, who could not get it into her head that, yes, I am nurse corps, but no, I am not medical. And no, I don't work for you. So I remember this very well. I had less than 30 days in until I retired. And she calls me up on the phone one day and she says, hey, I've got a tasker for you. I'm like, you're kidding, right? She goes, no. I said, you know, less than 30 days, I'm out, right? She goes, yeah. I said, well, I'll tell you what, Commander, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. She said, well, what's the easy way? I said, the easy way is we just hang up right now and you go ahead and give that task to somebody else. She goes, well, what's a hard way? So you give me the task, I'm gonna fucking blow you off until I'm retired, and then you're gonna be back to square one. So you should probably go the easy way. And she's like, "What do you mean? Are you trying to tell me that you think just because you've been in the Navy as long as you have, you don't have to work and for the rest of the time you're in?" I said, "Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you." So again, easy way or hard way. And she flips out. So she's like, um, calls the XO, and the XO's like, "Did you really say that to her?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "That's what's going to happen, unless you fucking pull your little balls out and you tell her, hey, give it to somebody else." So at this point, man, what are they going to do? You know, almost 32 years in, less than 30 days till I'm retired. And even if you want to take me to mast and you bust me, I'm still getting my high three, retirement pay. And I don't care what it says on my ID card. So
You
it
really
was a
didn't
good,
wanna do that tasker.
I was stupid, man. I don't even know what it was, but it was just the fact that you, you're, you're too stupid to realize that, you probably should not give that to somebody that's going to get out and not give two shits about it at all. But the thing is that because of COVID, Big Navy had came down, and the command would not endorse or support my retirement ceremony. So here I am planning everything all on my own because I'm like, screw y'all, I'm having one. I didn't go 3 decades to not have one, or it wasn't even the fact that it was the fact that I was told I couldn't. So that's exactly why it motivated me to do it. So I had stress with all that and transitioning thoughts and whatnot. And the last thing I even wanted to deal with was some idiot trying to give me something to do. But
Yeah.
it was pretty funny.
It was a
It,
difficult time in the Navy during COVID because I retired during that time frame, and I have a lot of crazy stories about that, but we weren't taken care of, and we couldn't
mm-mm.
even take care of ourselves with the Navy during that time. It was incredibly difficult. So, yeah, I feel you a little bit there.
I am a little bit bitter. I will be honest. I'm trying to get over it
Well, that's what we're
because
here to talk about.
you
Talking
know,
helps.
yeah, I wanted a ceremony, and I wanted a ceremony that was done for me. I didn't want to be the guy having to do everything my damn self just to have a ceremony. But so yeah, I'm a little bit bitter about that. How you can let somebody that dedicates their whole adult life to you, and then it's just all right, thanks, see ya,
You ask
nothing.
the wrong people, Andy or Doc. Some people will do it out of the kindness of their heart, you know? Like, I think that you're starting to see those people, and that was one of the hard things for me after I transitioned from the military was seeing people who really gave a fuck what support looks like outside of service. is kinda hard to see, and so when you can really tell who cares about you and who's there for you versus who's just going through the motions of doing their jobs or lack of doing their jobs.
That's right.
I didn't have retirement. I threw my,
See,
with my
that's a shame. You know, if you chose not to have one, that's totally cool. But if
I faded out, brother. I was like, I've been to so many, and I constantly reflect on when I was the 19-year-old kid in uniform out of retirement, and I didn't
mm,
give a fuck at all. And then I went to 50. I became a PAO, and I had to go to all of them. I'm taking pictures all across Little Creek at every damn ceremony there, and I was suddenly that guy retiring. I was like, I had all these flashbacks from all these retirements and all these stories. And I was so callous to it because I had already heard it so many times that it
right,
meant nothing to me. And I honestly didn't even want to put that on my sailors because 'cause they're gonna feel the need to go, and I didn't want them to be like, "Damn it, another fucking retirement," even though I think they care enough and would've.
yeah.
I just didn't want to impose that on anyone. I actually make joke often about how I should have requested one in summer dress whites with the Chiefs mess, medals and all, and then shown up in ranger panties and flip-flops. Just because.
Hell
That's
yeah.
such a pain in the ass to get your uniforms that ready. So I
I, I
didn't, man, I just kinda went out quiet.
I tell you why I was so adamant about having one, because it sounds like it's all about me. In reality, it wasn't. I wanted it for my family.
Absolutely.
It was closure for my family. I closed that door in my mind, you know, 6 months before I retired, basically. But it was important for me to have it for them because I was a military brat, and it was important for me to see my dad's retirement ceremony. So, and that's why I'm bitter about it.
Well, I'm proud of you because I've met, at least one of your children, and they're very respectful, and I have a feeling that they have a better understanding of the military than even, say, my parents or my mother. But that makes sense that you would want your family there because it means something to them, and then they hear these stories, and it feels kinda nice, right? Because to us, we're just super ordinary, we've always done our shit, rinse, repeat, but when that's why you write a book or people make a movie, but when your family hears about it, it's like, "Hold on a second, you're a hero." You know? You're not just the ordinary, and I think that
You're
we
not
could
just dad,
Yeah, just dad, damn dad.
right?
So after your retirement, let's talk about that transition into the civilian life and how what kinda challenges did you face upon retirement?
You know, I probably had an easier transition in the beginning than most people do, with simply because, you know, for the 6 to 8 months that I was at recruiting, I wasn't really at recruiting, I was at home. You know, I'd do some taskers every now and then that the exit would send my way, but, for the most part, I was first civ div, baby. You know, I was already on that transition out. Um, so from that regard, it was pretty easy, but it didn't really hit me. Well, that year was crazy. It was wild, man. So I retired in March. I went to Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy in June, which was awesome, and got back from there. A week after I got back, we went to Vegas with the whole family on a trip. Got back from Vegas, my wife gets COVID to the point where they admitted her in the hospital. 2 days later, I can't breathe. So I go to the hospital. I got to get my mom over to the house to watch the kids. I get admitted. While in the hospital with COVID, I had a freaking heart attack. Um, thought I was going to friggin', you know, I like to say when I was in the hospital, I had the heart attack. I was, felt like I was shot at and missed and shit at and hit. You know,
Yeah,
it was, it was probably the most scared I've ever been in my life. And that includes being shot at in combat. Um,
yeah,
you know, in combat, you think in your mind, you trick yourself to believe that, yeah, you could die, but at least you have some semblance of control because you have a weapon, you can return fire, you can whatever, right? You move, whatever
you're
the
trained
case may
for that.
be.
You've trained for that.
Right. There was nothing, man, laying in that hospital bed and being an ER trauma nurse, you know, I've run many codes. I knew I knew what was happening. And hit the call light. I was so weak I couldn't yell. I wanted to get out of bed and, you know, behind the hospital beds, they've got a code alarm. I wanted to get out and hit that. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of the bed. Um, and then when they came in and they're like, I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating. It was a good 5 minutes before I got somebody even poked their head in. And I told them I'm having a heart attack. She's like, "You're not having a heart attack." I said, "Get the fucking doctor in here, idiot." Threw the EKG on me, sure as shit, having a heart attack. I mean, I'm looking at it, right? I did this for years. I knew what I was looking at, and they had to go down to the ER and get the ER doc, one of the ER docs, to come up because the intern didn't know how to run a code. I'm like, "Do you want me to run it for you?" Fuck, you know. So I got tears streaming down my face. The first thought that popped into my head was, and this is crazy, man. It's like, well, I guess today's the day I'm gonna find out if God's real or not. So it was pretty tough, man. On top of being isolated because of COVID. So there's nobody there. That's the loneliest feeling in the world, man. So
Yeah,
I can't even imagine you know, the poor people that succumb to that damn disease being in there all alone.
yeah.
But so anyway, I went into the hospital a fairly healthy individual, came out post heart attack and a type 2 insulin dependent diabetic, and I'm all fucked up now. But it really sent me into a deep dark place, man, because I hadn't grieved yet. I hadn't grieved for my father, you know. I couldn't yet because after he passed, my mom was depressed. Obviously, they'd been married over 50 years, you know. So I still had to be the strong guy for the family, you know. You know how that bullshit is.
Yeah. The
And
Rock.
yeah, it just came to a head, man. And my wife and I got into a pretty knockdown, drag out argument only a day or two after I got out of the hospital. And things transpired. I was left alone in the house one day. I had a pistol to my head, and I was going to pull the trigger. And divine intervention is the only way I can describe this. But out of the blue, one of the guys I had met at Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, he and I kind of hit it off, you know. And out of the blue, he called, and you know, he had no idea what was going on. He just, "Hey, fucker, what's up?" And
Right.
saved my life.
It's funny how the universe works that way, you know? I don't believe in coincidence,
Oh, I
but
don't either.
man, it's really powerful, and that academy is amazing, and I do wanna talk about that in a little bit, but I would imagine after you came out of the hospital, you were on quite a few medications.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because we're gonna back up. You know, we do a little Scooby Doo back up, go back in time, whatever. Yeah, but I'd reached my breaking point, man. Before I even got out here to St. Louis, we had just gotten back from Japan. We transferred to Virginia. I was under an incredible amount of stress because I got put in charge of standing up this brand new clinic for active duty only. Um, Working that angle. Then my dad gets sick. I got to go out there. I do, you know, emergency leave. Then I did the 30, 60-day TAD. Um, I hit that wall, man. And I finally went in and I talked to one of the psychiatrists and I said, "Hey, I'm at my limit. I need help, you know." And they put me on a couple. First they tried Xanax. Xanax didn't do shit. They put me on Wellbutrin, and then oh man, I'm forgetting the other one. Um, anyway, one of them crazy pills, right? And oh, and Ambien because
For
man,
sleep?
I wasn't sleeping, you know, and when I was sleeping, I was having fucking nightmares, so I
Not
wasn't
good
sleeping.
sleep. You wasn't yeah, your body wasn't resting.
Yeah, and you know, let me tell you what, man, if there's no guilt in the world like the guilt of hitting your spouse in your sleep because you're having a nightmare, you're reliving some bullshit you went through, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I needed help. So they put me on these freaking meds, man, and I did not like the way it made me feel. You know, it's like a zombie. I felt like I was in a haze all the time, man. It just kind of just didn't. I wasn't me, right?
Right.
And at this point, I'm still in denial. I the psychiatrist said, "Well, you got PTSD." I'm like, I don't have. There's no fucking way. Not a chance. Nope. Not even entertaining that thought. Well, I guess I do. I guess, but going back to how the meds made me feel, I like I said, I didn't like it, and I've been doing a lot of research because I something had to give, man. So I started researching weed, and come to find out that there's not a lot of studies here in the U.S., at least at the time. But man, you know, Israel and a bunch of other countries been studying it. So
Israel opened it up.
yep. So I jumped on. I did a lot of research on that, the side effects, the medicinal benefits. Um, you know, oddly enough, I couldn't find any related deaths to marijuana at all. It's
Yeah,
just
nope.
straight marijuana. You know.
Nobody getting their brain scrambled,
Hmm.
nobody getting extra superhuman strength.
Yep. I was like, all right. So and then come to find out that it's non toxic to the body. And then even furthering my research because of the field I was in for so long, coming across the fact that we have an canon that word system.
Endocannabinoid system, we didn't even know that
Thank you.
until the '90s.
Right. So
Our body produces this same shit.
out of desperation, I tried it. And 50 years old smoking weed for the first time. That's crazy, isn't it?
How did you consume your first time? I'm curious about that, doc.
First time smoke. Uh, I've got a friend of mine that I used to do the podcast with that we obviously don't do the show together anymore, but he came down and we hung out and he's big time. He's just a pothead, you know. There's those of us that do it for specific reasons, and then there's potheads, and he's straight up pothead. I,
Okay.
I'm not judging. I think it's great. You know, he's a guy that turned me on to it. But yeah, so did that. And the first time, unfortunately, I was shithouse drunk. So I
Oh,
couldn't tell if it did anything or not. But uh, as I continued to try, I ended up quit drinking because of the weed. I haven't had a drink in over 4 years now. Um,
congratulations. I call that Cali sober.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Haven't had a nightmare. I'm sleeping better than I ever have. My anxiety is so much lower. Oh, and I don't take any of that other shit anymore.
Wow.
So
None of it?
nope, I don't take. I kept the Xanax because I give it to my dog when the thunder happens and the lightning. But uh, yeah, I had no Ambien. I came off the other psych meds. Um, yeah, shit. Yeah, it's going on 4 years now.
Can you kinda talk through in your experience specifically, like, how did it help with your sleep? How did you use it for your mental health? How have you used it for physical pain?
So yeah, absolutely. At first, I got to give a little bit of background. You know, I came from a very conservative family. Um, drugs was just unacceptable. I have an older half brother that's 7 years older than I am. He got into drugs pretty heavily, and not the recreational kind. You know, the heroin, all the other bullshit, stealing money from my family. So me coming up, I wanted nothing to do with it. Pot bad, right? Evil. I fell into that trap.
That stigma.
So yep. Uh, so it really took a lot for me, and the research helped to even want to try it, you know. But I was desperate, man. I had a suicide attempt, and on these meds that just make you feel not like yourself, and I just didn't really want to be around anymore. So out of desperation, I tried it, and the first couple of times was pretty damn amazing. Um, it just relaxed me, man. I was so relaxed. Everything was so funny, you know. I couldn't stop laughing at stuff, and relaxed me so much so that I fell asleep in my chair. I'm like, "Wow, this is good." And I mean, I had a good nap. I had a quality nap, no nightmares. I woke up refreshed. I was like, "All right, maybe there's something to this." So, um, I got to the point where, all right, I'm only gonna do it at night. And I wanted to try the gummies because I was told that they were longer acting. They take longer to come on, but which was perfect for me because at that point I wasn't doing it for the high. I was doing it to live, to
Yeah.
be perfectly honest. Um, so I didn't care if I felt it or not. I needed to get that sleep. I needed that relaxation, and sure enough, man, it works like a champ. Um, but I can neither confirm nor deny if I still only do it at night.
Right.
Yeah.
I when I first started, it wasn't necessarily for sleep. I would do it at night, and I would do it when I was drinking. And so I would take little tart gummies, like sweet tart kind, and they were only, I think, like 2, 3 milligram. And what happened was, like, I would pass out faster, so I drink less, and so then I started to just take more and weaned myself off of alcohol, kind of, to where I was just taking those, and so then I was just taking them to get to sleep because as long as I can remember, I've had a hell of a time getting to sleep, except for a few nights on the ship when we were rocking, but, um after that, I really like yourself, I started to do my own independent research, and I found that there are medicinally studied strains. There's thousands of strains at this point because you can cross breed different types of cannabis plants. But I found that they had medicinally studied different strains and terpenes for different types of things like fibromyalgia and lupus, insomnia, a lot for MS, and the list continues to grow. Every time I do 420 fun facts, and I'm constantly looking up new medical study, and it's like, "Holy shit." There's no funding behind it, but people believe in it enough that they're privately researching this in labs by respectful people like Johns Hopkins University on LinkedIn. I think I'm streaming to LinkedIn. There's Dr. Marion McNabb and Dr. Peter Grinespoon that have dedicated.
Dr. Grindspoon, are you kidding me? That can't be his real last name.
Peter?
Grindspoon? Is that what you said?
Something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Uh,
But they've
so
they're doing this research, and they're finding amazing, results from this. Just, like, the quality of life from 500 people that were tested went up 96%. I mean, new things, like, people had a high percentage of them had quit smoking cigarettes. Um, like, we're talking 80s and 90% with helping with insomnia and PTSD. And in my personal experience, there's no one thing that's gonna fix you, but
no.
it can certainly help, give you the space you need to figure it out. It kinda helps with that.
I, I will say this for anybody that's watching that may not be of the same opinion, and just for the sake of playing devil's advocate, yeah, well, you know what? It's just a placebo effect. There's no real medicinal benefits or whatever. You know what? You can make that claim and that argument, and that's fine. Um, but even if it is a placebo effect, if it's working, sticking with it because it's working.
Well, I think we're beyond that now that we are doing more studies into the endocannabinoid, the EC1 and EC2,
Mhm,
which just from my basic research, the EC1 is what the THC sticks to, and EC2 is what CBD works with.
mm,
So there's multiple systems at play here in our bodies, and you can do your own independent research. There's like a little chart map of the body of where each impacts and what it can help with. But the fact of the matter is that it is not for everyone, but you might know someone that it could help.
right.
And if you don't have any reason not to try it, why not try it? And if you're going to try it, it's recreational in a lot of places. A lot of people are trying it without giving a shit what it helps with. They're just doing it to get high. If you're doing that, I don't care. I don't care if you're just
I
getting
don't either.
stoned. But what I do encourage is that you document how it helps you. Take note of what works for you, what gives you anxiety, what doesn't give you anxiety, and kinda pay attention to what you're getting, and I think there's some power to that. I wrote a book, and it's just basically a guidebook to document, strains for pains is what it's called. It's on Amazon,
Nice.
but I think I gave you a copy. I know I've given you a copy. What in the F? Well, I'll give you
You
some
have
copies.
not.
But it's just basically a book where you just document, here's what the strain is, here were the effects, taste, smell, and just a little bit, like you can review it, say if you would want that again or not. Like
It's
I
like a
had
journal for lack of a
it,
better.
it's essentially a journal to document
Yeah.
your cannabis journey. Yeah.
Hell
And
yeah.
because I like for myself, I have stomach cramps every freaking morning. And so I don't eat breakfast. And sometimes even just my coffee will upset my stomach. So I do have a strain, like ice cream cake or ice cream cookie strains are really good that will instantly kind of help resolve my stomach issues. And I'm just microdosing it, so I'm not even getting high,
Yeah.
but my stomach pain is instantly gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I get nauseous all the time, like stupid nauseous. Um, and I didn't have this before I had COVID, right? The only thing I've tried to use medicine, the Sofran that they give out in the ER and all that. You put under your tongue. It doesn't touch it, man. But just take a little pull. Again, like you said, not you don't even really feel it, but the nausea goes away. And there's a lot of days that's the only way I can eat, man.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I just wish that people knew this. More people would know this, more people would share this information because I'm especially in the veteran community with this PACT Act and all these things with that we've been exposed to. A commonality is stomach problems, and I don't think people are aware of that. And I have consulted a doctor about this. I go to the VA for this, and I even have my own personal doctor, Dr. Judd, that owns Green Cert here in Missouri, so he can issue medicinal licensing, but he also has green seed. He's very, very educational about how to grow your own types of seeds, things like that. I mean, just from seed to trim. He's got a whole YouTube series on it. But
Nice.
it's these are people that I've talked to that will say, yeah, there is study behind this. This does work, and this is how different ways that you can do it. And there's a ton of them. Dr. Judd got into the game for women's health for stomach problems. And so there's so many of these holistic healing options that are so much safer than the alcohol or than the Xanax
Oh
or
yeah.
Prozac and Zoloft and all this other stuff
I
out
could totally see that the women's health aspect with the endometriosis and the anti-inflammatory properties of the THC. That's pretty awesome.
there. Yeah, it's really powerful stuff, and it really does help with people. I've interviewed people that they said they were in so much pain that they couldn't sleep, and they were in so much pain that they didn't want to be alive through it. And they found even I can't remember the name of it. There is a legal THC painkiller out there.
Marinol.
Marinol. He was on Marinol for a while, and then he said that that really had helped.
Hmm.
But, yeah, it's just it's amazing, and it's crazy. But let me ask you this, have you faced any stigmas, because of cannabis since you've been out, or have you had it pretty easy?
I've had it pretty easy, man.
Family was pretty open and accepting about it?
Oh yeah, I mean, my wife, she smokes periodically every now and then, once in a great while, but and neighbors smoke around us and whatnot. So I really didn't face. Yeah, no, I guess I didn't. But then again, I'm trying to go back to the fact that I really face any, or uh, is my attitude I just don't give a shit? Was that so much in place that I didn't notice it?
Yeah.
Could be a combination of the two.
I had, a little bit of concern with my military brothers and sisters that maybe are still in or still had that stigma of it's bad, you can't do this, or think that I'm just a stoner and don't even understand my mission behind all of this, which is to educate people on how it can benefit without being a stoner. Like I'm trying to demonstrate I'm a fully functional father, human being. I stay active, I camp, I hike, I still make it to all my kids' sporting events. I still am trying to improve myself as a person every day, and I smoke
Yeah,
or
yeah. It's
consume.
most of the vets I know smoke, you know?
I get some really interesting that come out to me that don't want people to know about it, and there's actually that's probably my favorite thing about being 420 chief is the people that'll reach out and be like, "Hey, don't tell anybody, but human for years."
I don't care, man. I really don't. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I don't look at it as an illegal drug or substance. I truly look at it as medicine because of all the benefits I've gotten from it. So if you don't like it, fuck you. Okay,
I
don't
mean, it's
like it.
so to me, it's we've normalized alcohol so much to the point
Right.
that we all know someone, and we all have an alcoholic friend, or I'm sure, or a family
I'm
member.
an alcoholic.
Are you
That's why I
still?
quit. That's why,
Yeah?
well, yeah, well, yeah, yeah. That's why we say we're recovering because you'll never be cured of it.
I don't agree with that, and I'll tell you why. In my personal experience, and I've met others like myself, to where I'm at the point when I was drinking, I was drinking every day. I knew I would look forward to it. I wouldn't admit at the time that I was an alcoholic because I was like, I could quit at any time, but I didn't. And there was a long period to where I actually hated alcohol. I was like, "Fuck you, alcohol." And then it got to the point where I was like, I could drink if I wanted to, and I would try, and then I would get sick. And now, in the present, today, I feel like I could have a drink socially, but I probably wouldn't. So I feel like I'm not even worried about it. I know I will never get back to that point, but I feel like I'm cured of that because I could have a drink if I wanted to. I just don't know if I would ever choose to do it again.
Well, you're one of the lucky ones then, man.
Well, it takes
And
practice. It took daily fucking practice of really being an alcoholic to really going through all those phases of it to where I feel like this now. But
I
it's a lot more than the alcohol I had to fix to get to that point.
sure. I tell you what, I didn't look forward to drinking. I needed drinking to function. Um, and there's times even now, it's over 4 years, and I still crave that drink sometimes, man. And I know if I take one, it's fucking game over. I'll be right back where I was, and I do not want to go down that road. But that's me, and I've learned that about myself. My father was an alcoholic. Um, yeah, it just runs in the family, basically. And
But no two people are the same. We're all on our own journey.
right,
Nobody will ever know all the shit you've been through, what you faced, overcome, what you still are overcoming. We are all on our own fucking mission, so to speak. But we're coming up on an hour. I try to keep these about an hour long. I would like to ask you, um, actually, we'll just back up just a little bit. What current projects or passions are you working on? We got to cover that kind of quick, but I definitely wanted
okay,
to cover your involvement with the Wounded Warrior Project umpire.
absolutely. So the Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, in a nutshell, we take veterans in that are combat wounded or ill, and we teach them how to be umpires. But more importantly, we give them that sense of camaraderie again, that sense of purpose. We give them a skill, and we're essentially there for them for the rest of their lives as alumni. It's amazing program. It saves lives. It saved my life literally. If I wouldn't have gone to that program and met that dude, I wouldn't be here right now. So I'm very passionate about it. So much so that I'm actually a board member. And once a year we have a camp every June. We get folks together. We teach them to be umpires. Give them, like I said, the renewed sense of purpose. So through that, umpiring has become one of my passions now. So I umpire. I've umpired some college games all the way down to little league, and I really enjoy it. But it's taken a lot of time and effort through umpiring and through the Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy. I met another gentleman that came out as part of a film crew to document us. He's got a nonprofit organization that takes goes to the recruiting stations and takes individuals that failed the ASVAB or a little bit overweight or can't PT, whatever. They take them in and they tutor them. They get them spun up, PT them, educate them on nutrition, the whole 9 yards, um, mentoring, gives them classes, the whole shebang, right? I've kind of got involved with that now. So, um, mentoring aspect, teaching leadership classes and basic military knowledge to these kids. It's pretty rewarding.
And it's umpiring baseball, which is, I don't know, that's always been one of my passions. I played baseball from when I was young through college. I still play softball every chance that I get. I used to umpire little league games through the Lions Club, and then I've coached numerous little league teams. So I love baseball, but the fact that they're helping out veterans, putting them up, putting them through the training to even give them an employment, because some of these guys have moved on into MLB umpiring, correct?
Maybe not MLB, but they have definitely gone to pro school. We've got D1 level athlete or umpires out there. Uh, Minor league umpires from the academy. The instruction that these guys get is top notch. We do have MLB umpires and minor league umpires come in as part of the training team, in addition to our own training cadre who has huge amounts of experience. In fact, we do have one gentleman on that was the first Australian born major league umpire here in the states. So
Oh, wow.
it's pretty awesome. The instruction's great. I guarantee you if you could go in there knowing absolutely nothing about umpiring, which is what I did, and come out and you can work any game, any level.
That's amazing. And
It
how long is that training?
it's it's a 10-day camp. Here's the great part about this camp. Uh, the veterans pay for nothing. Their flight's taken care of, their food is taken care of, their hotel is taken care of. They get $1,500 worth of brand new umpire gear given to them. And then on top of it, we go and help them find organizations back in their hometown. So, exactly what you said, we set them up to go into that possibility of making some money. And I tell you what, around this area where we're at, varsity high school is $97 a game, and it's 70 something for junior varsity freshmen. You
Wow.
you can make last season, 2 seasons ago, I made over 5 grand just from March to May,
Just doing your passion,
just doing it. You
getting
know,
paid to play.
so you could make a living on it. And the reason I bring that up is because if a veteran has no other means of income other than maybe their disability, they can't find a job. Well, that's something you can sustain yourself with.
Well, how would they get in touch with you or that organization if they're interested?
So, Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, it's woundedwarriorua.org. You can go to the website and check them out. And if anybody's seriously interested, you can send send them to me. Send them my way. Give 'em my contact info.
Okay, and Doc, you've got your own podcast. Nothing's off the table?
That is correct, sir. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm kind of hoarse right now. We did over 4 hours last night covering the erection, the
I saw
election.
that. I'd come in and, periodically and check it out in real time, so that was really cool. And you wanna remind our listeners when you go live on that?
Absolutely, we're live every Friday night except this Friday. Every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we're on Facebook, YouTube, Kick, Twitch, X, and a bunch of other crap.
Alright, Doc, well, let's get any final thoughts or words of wisdom from you, insights that you would give other veterans or individuals struggling with mental health challenges or cannabis questions or anything in the general. What do you got, Doc?
Reach out, talk to somebody. You can't hold it inside. You will never heal. You'll never even get on the journey of healing if you're continuously hiding it, forcing it down. I can't talk today for whatever reason, but talking is healing, man. Talk to somebody. I'm not saying go to a therapist. It could be your buddy, your battle buddy, whoever. Call me. I'll listen. Oh, anytime.
Absolutely, and I think that's important for people to know. It doesn't always mean you have to talk about what's bothering you. Sometimes if you just call somebody that you know is gonna redirect you, make you smile and laugh, and get you to that point that you're more comfortable talking about it, remember that therapy looks different for everybody. It doesn't mean going to a therapist. I just came back from one. I have a great relationship with my VA therapist, and I'm blessed to have that. But at the same time, I probably have more therapy sitting around a bonfire with some of my close brothers and sisters. So you're never truly alone, but you've got to reach out. You've got to reach out. I do provide a platform if you want to just vibe and listen to some music on TikTok every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. A lot of people, a lot of shit going on in this crazy world, but it's one place where we can all unite and vibe out together. Nothing but love and support in there. Really, a bunch of people who genuinely care about one another and not all this other bullshit that's going on. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, share out this episode, especially to those that you think it could help out with. Maybe they can relate to Doc or myself, or maybe even a veteran community. Maybe they have questions about the Umpire Academy. Maybe they have questions for Chief. Feel
Yeah.
free to reach out. All of my socials are here. Follow and shoot me a message, and I'll get back to you. I promise. Thank you again, Doc. I really appreciate you taking the time and kind of letting us get to know you a little bit today. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, appreciate it, man. Because sometimes you don't know who your neighbor is, right? Sometimes I don't know, they're eating the pets. Had to throw one in there on you. Sorry.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. I definitely appreciate our camping trips, and I look forward to doing that again soon. But until next time, everybody, lead with love, lead with change, and I'm going to roll us out of here.